Write a program that generates a random population of n items and then sample k number k number of items from that randomly generated population. Let's try to write that. Okay. So first of all, let's say, so here there are two parameters, say n and k. Sorry. Enter the population size, which is n, and k int input, enter the sample size. Okay. I'm just executing it to keep this for the rest of in our code, so that I don't have to take this input again and again. So let's say the population size is say 10,000. The sample size is say 100. Okay. Now what I have to do is I have to generate a random population of 10,000 items. It is actually 100,000. It's not 10,000. It's not an issue. And then I need to write, I mean, extending that code, I need to select 100 items from this basically 100,000 sample size or population size, 100 many items. Note that this will be generated randomly and this selection will also be needed to be random. So as I said in the last, random package or random module. Note that it's not package, it's random module. Let's say we have declared a rand number, which is a list in which we will be storing the randomly generated numbers. So let's call it a rand population. Okay, and then what I have to do is I need to generate these many random numbers. So for I in range n, so we know this will be the statement here. I mean, if I have a statement in this line, it will be getting executed n number of times, which is 100,000 here. Now, what we will be doing here is, let's say we'll be considering the generating a random number, random. So we know the random.randint function, which will be generating a random number. Now note that randint actually takes two parameters. Basically the range inside which the randomly generated number will be falling into. Let's say I want to generate a random number in between 1 and 100. Rephrase the problem once again. Write a program that generates a random population of n items and then sample, it will be sample k, or write a program that and then samples k number of items from the population. Okay. Now note that there is a extra assumption or extra restriction, that is all this n number of randomly generated items, all of them will be in between 1 to 100. Okay. So this will be basically generating n number of random numbers, capital N number of random numbers in between 1 to 100. Now what we need to do is we need to append this randomly generated number into this rand population list. Append then n. Okay. So this is actually, we are done. Now, if we just want to check how the population is looking like, although the output will be a messy one, but still, if we execute this print statement, as you can see, this rand population is containing 100,000 randomly generated. Okay. Now we have to, so up to this much, we have already written the code. So I'm sure that you would have been writing this up to this much of code at your end without any new knowledge. So now coming to the next part, that is sampling k number of items from this randomly generated population. So how to do that? To do that, we'll be again using the random module. Inside that, there is a function called sample. So, so k sample, I'm declaring a list here, which will be taking random dot. I'm calling this sample function, which is defined in this random module. Here I'll be passing two parameters. One is the population, basically the rand population, and second is the number of items that you want to sample from this population, that is k, right? If I execute this and then if I print it, k sample, you'll be seeing that this is the generated or sampled 100 items from this randomly generated population of 100,000 items or 100,000 integers in between 1 to 100. Okay, so by using the random module, we are actually doing this. So I'm sure while doing your research, this will be needed many times while generating some random observation of maybe some experiments. At that point, I'm sure this will be useful. Next, coming back to the question, write a program to generate a series of random numbers that follow a normal distribution with a given mu and standard deviation. Now note that in the earlier program we have generated a population with n items where there was not actually any mathematical distribution. The numbers were following, but here the random numbers. But note that the numbers that you are generating that you will be generating randomly should be following a normal distribution. So again, to do that, we will be using the rand or random module once again. So again, although declared, but still for the sake of completion, I'm writing this. Then say, so basically there are two parameters, mu and sigma. So let's say I am declaring say mu equals to say 50 and sigma equals to say 10. Okay. Now again, rand population. So I'm declaring basically an empty list. Is we need to populate this list using numbers from a normal distribution with mu or mean 50 and sigma 10 or standard deviation 10. Now let's say we'll be generating again capital N number of items, that is 100,000 items. But note that earlier it was entirely random, but in this case, I'm expecting or I want to generate the set of numbers which will be following a normal distribution. So how we will be able to do that? So again I will be using this for loop with range function. Now, earlier I was using the randint function, right? In this case, what I'll be doing is I'll be using a normal variate function. Note that there was a function called normal variate. Given a mu and sigma pair, it will be generating some integers which will be following a normal distribution. So unlike the earlier case, instead of using the randint, I'll be using the normal variate function. So again, n equals to random dot normal variate. There will be two parameters, mu and sigma, and I will be populating or appending that randomly generated number inside this rand population list. Okay. Now if I print this rand population, rand popu, or let's rand population with say ND, normal distribution. So as you can see, it is quite a lot of number, but note that there are non-integer numbers as well. Earlier in the code, the first code, here I was generating random integers in between 0 to 100 and they were entirely random. Now I wanted to generate random numbers which will be following a normal distribution. So I am saying that we have done that, but how to check that? How to ensure that? Can we uh, do something to understand that there is a normal distribution that is, I mean, there is a normal distribution. Looking at the numbers, it is not possible to understand whether there is a normal distribution or any other distribution that is generating these numbers, right? So to do that, a simple thing we can do is we can plot these numbers. We can plot these numbers using a bar plot, okay, or a histogram. So to plot these numbers in a histogram, we will be using another module, another external module. I am writing that code. Look at this carefully. Import matplotlib, which is the name of the package, pyplot, say as say plt. Here in this statement, what I am doing is I am importing a module called pyplot. I am renaming it as plt, and this pyplot module is defined inside a package called matplotlib. Now note that there are two terminologies. One is package, which is matplotlib, and there is module, which is pyplot. So roughly, a package is a set of modules you can consider, and a module, as I said, will be just a simple Python program which will be containing certain Python module components like variables and functions. Okay, so just to recap, here matplotlib is the name of a package and pyplot is the name of a module. Now to plot this, I mean this distribution which is stored in this rand population underscore nd variable, what we will be doing is we will be using this module or pyplot module. So what we will be doing is pyplot.hist, which is again another function to plot a histogram, which would take two parameters, basically the numbers or the list inside which the numbers are stored, which you want to plot. In this case, basically this list, which is rand population underscore nd, rand population underscore nd. And the second is a bin or bin size. Here for the histogram, we need to define a bin size. So let's consider putting it as say 100. And then we need to call the show function. This show function will be actually displaying this plot graphically. Now, if I execute this, we'll be looking at, we'll be getting one pretty nice graphical representation of this randomly generated numbers. Note that, as you can see, it is actually a bell-shaped curve, which is stating that roughly the randomly generated numbers are following a normal distribution. just to check what type of distribution was this one, as sorry, this one where we were just using the randint. If we want to do that, we can simply call, I'm just copying these two codes here. Instead of this nd, if I do this, this will be showing the graphical representation of the numbers that were generated in between 1 to 100 in this in this population of 100,000 numbers. Note that almost all the numbers in between 1 to 100 were there with almost equal frequency. Now this bins is basically a parameter stating the number of items to be taken together inside a bin. All these bars are called bins. Okay, if I make it say 10, it will be a bigger one. I mean, all these plots will be bigger ones. You can see. So here basically all the items from 1 to 10 are considered as a single bar. All the items from 11 to 20 are considered as a single bar, and so on. And if I make it larger, I mean, if I increase the bin size, say 100, as you can see, it will be smoothed. Of course, if we increase this to say 500, it will be much more smoother, as you can see. Any question up to this? Anyone? All right. So here I am using this normal variate function. There is this Gaussian distribution for Gauss function as well. There is beta variate function as well, which will be generating the random numbers, which will be following a beta distribution. It can be a log normal distribution or a gamma distribution as well. So I hope you will be able to try this at your end. Feel free to let me know if you are facing any difficulty generating different numbers, generating different random distributions using this function, this random module functions. Now, we have so far looked at the Python defined or default modules, which are installed by default along with Python, right? The second type of module is basically called external module, which is not installed together with Python, but they are developed by the Python developer or certain other Python developer, not exactly the one that have developed the Python language, but other developers who are working on extending the Python language. These are called Python external modules, such as this pyplot, and we need to install them explicitly in our machine before using it. Note that Python defined these default modules, they are installed together with Python. That is, if you install Python interpreter, this will be installed implicitly. But these external modules, we need to install explicitly. Now, to install these external modules, what we need to do is we can use the pip command. Now, if you are using Jupyter Notebook, a simple way of installing this external module is using this command. First, there will be an exclamation mark, then pip space install space the name of the package. Okay, let's try that. Although at my end, but still try that. Pip install and say matplotlib. If I execute this, collecting matplotlib, as you can see, it will be telling me that it is already installed, or actually there was a recent version which is being installed. Actually, the installation has been completed. Now note that those of you who are not using a notebook or Jupyter Notebook, there are certain ways of using them, installing this pip installer. So first of all, you need to search with, say, installing pip installer, or you can just search with pip installer for Windows. Say, I am expecting most of you are using Windows operating system. This pip.pypa will be the link that you should be entering into. Then you need to download this .py file, which is a simple pipe program. It will be of around 2 MB size. This will be just a simple uh, pip file, or a simple Python file. So here for Windows, you just need to get here, and there you'll be, oops, extremely sorry. Yeah, sorry. This is the 2.1 MB file get pip. You need to download this get pip file, and you just need to execute it using this command. Py will be available as long as you have your Python installation in your operating system. Py will be available for py, then space, then you need to provide the name of this file. Note that to execute this code, you need to place this get pip.py in this directory. If it is stored in, say, some other directory, you need to cd into that directory use from command prompt. I am referring to the cd command from the command prompt, and then you need to execute this command. While installing this pip installer, if you face any difficulty, please let me know. Okay, so using this, you will be able to install the pip installer, and then you just need to, after that, if the installation is successful, then you will be able to import the modules which are defined inside that package. Now, as I said, packages are a set of modules, and modules, as I said, is basically a Python program containing a set of Python components, which are variables as well as functions. Okay. Now, this will be very much useful for you guys, because you will be using so many. I'm considering those of you who are working, you will be working on some practical data. And at that point, you need to, you will be using certain, say, machine learning tools or certain plotting tools, or there are multiple different tools regarding doing so many things in Python. All those are available as form of packages, and the beauty of Python is you don't need to write anything on your own. If it is already available inside some package, you just need to install that package using this pip install command, and then you will be able to import that corresponding module, and you will be able to use them from your code. The third type of module is programmer defined module, or how can we actually define a module for ourselves which can be used later on. There are 3 basic steps to write a module on our own. First, we need to write the module. That is, we need to write a .py file, which we will be using as a module. Then we need to place the module, or place the .py file in an appropriate path. And third is, after that, we will be able to import the module while writing other codes. Okay, and then we'll be able to use the module components, that is the functions as well as the variables defined inside this module. Now, to write a module, as I said, a module is simply a py file, simply a py file or a Python program code that can be used most of the time, that can be used as a module. Now, let's consider this simple 5-line code. The name of the code is greet.py. There are 2 functions, greet, named greet, 2 functions, and there is a simple print statement outside this. This is the file which is stored in my desktop. Okay, here is the file, or the content of this file is this. Okay. Now, as we can understand, this is simply a pipe program or a Python program. If I execute this code, only this statement will be executed, because to execute these two functions, we need to call them. But if we run this greet.py file only this statement will be getting executed, as we are not calling this function from anywhere. Okay. But as I said, this can be used, or this can be referred to as a module as well. In that case, the name of the module will be greet. Now okay, so let's discuss another thing. Technically, any Python program file can be used as a module. But I mean, usually those pipe programs will be considered as modules that is, if it is itself doing something, that is taking some input and computing something and also presenting some output, which is, in short, which is running on its own, those type of Python programs most of the time will not be considered as a module. But that's not technically true. Technically or theoretically as well, any Python program can be a module. But there is one short restriction, and the restriction is a pretty severe one. We need to follow. The restriction is, we cannot use a file named as, named with some of the reserved keywords in Python to name the file. If we do that, then we will not be able to use that as a module. That is, if we call this function as say for.py, for.py, it is a valid Python program, right? If we execute it, it will be running flawlessly. But it will not be a module. Okay? Because for is a Python reserved word. Similar to while. Say if I call this while.py, it is a perfectly fine Python program, but it cannot be used as a module. This is the only restriction of using a Python program as a module. Now we have written, for example, we have written this file, okay, this greet.py file. Note that this is a valid Python program to be used as a module, because greet is not a keyword in Python. So that's why we can use this as a module. The name of the module will be greet. Now, can we import this greet module from anywhere? Let's try that. So as I said, this greet.py is placed in this, or in the desktop. Now, if I try to import, import, if I try to execute this, can we do that? The answer is no. As you can see, the error is module not found error, because this file is stored in this directory. This one. This is the file. This greet module, which is essentially a greet.py file, is not stored in this place. That's why we will not be able to use this greet.py file as a module from this directory. Now let's just copy this. Copy. and let's just paste it here. Now you can see grid.py is now here. Now if I execute this, you can see module grid imported. This message is basically this message. So we have successfully imported this grid module. Earlier we were not, it was not possible because this grid.py file was not in this directory. But now as I placed it here, we were able to successfully import this module. Okay. Now, in general, where to place this module files? The Python interpreter, while interpreting or executing your code, they will be first looking at your built-in module path. If you are using a Linux operating system with Python 3.6, the built-in module path is this. So if you execute or if your code is containing some statement like this, import XYZ, if you execute this is statement, the Python interpreter will first look at this path to check whether XYZ is a Python defined built-in module or not. If it is not found in this path, then it will be looking at the syspath directories, and the set of paths which contains some Python defined or Python Python execution helper codes which are so let's just look at how this path actually looks like. So to do that, as I have said, sys is already a Python defined module. So if I just import that, and if I just print sys.path, we will be getting the paths in which your Python interpreter will be looking for the module. So this is, after looking at this Python built-in module path, this will be looking at this path, then this path, then this path, and so on. Okay. These are the defined paths based on your Python repository version. I am using a Python 3.6. That's why you can see all these are user lib Python 3.6, user lib Python 3.6, and so on, and all its variants. Now note that other than these, this is something that is not defined or not based on your operating based on your root installation. This is actually a path inside your home directory. In my case, my username is Zoipayon. That's why it is basically a path inside my home directory. This is as well as this. So these are basically the paths where we should be keeping our defined Python modules. Okay, I'll be repeating that. So if we define a Python module on our own, the first choice is to keep it in the present working directory from where you will be calling that module. Okay, or we should be keeping them inside some user driven or user specific directories such as this, or say this. But usually, as I said, this is the more common practice of keeping the module file or the .py file in the same present working directory from which you will be calling that module. This can also be used, but they are rare. Mostly, we will be keeping them in the PWT. Now let's consider we have a constant.py file which looks like uh, this, which is containing, let's for the time being, let's consider this file constant.py, which is a simple Python code containing 3 variables and 1 function, pi e light speed, and 1 function print sol or speed of light. This is defined inside a function called constant.py. Now, of course, we can use this constant.py as a module because the restriction was the name should not be a keyword. Here, constant is not actually a keyword in Python. So it is a valid name of a module. Now, I have kept this constant.py file in this path from where this notebook is created. So if I execute this import constant, as you can see, it is imported successfully. Now the constant module contains, in fact, these 2 variable names and 1 function. That's it. Now, if I want to use these modules or module components, what we can do is, first of all, we need to import it. That is, say, one statement is from name of the module, import the name of the module component. Star will be importing everything, and then we will be able to access them. Let's do that. Say from constant import star, and then print, say, we know that inside the constant module there are e light underscore speed and print sol. These are the 3 components defined. So e, if I execute this, you can see this value is being printed, which is defined here. Light of speed, if I again print same value that are stored here. And we can also call this function print sol, print underscore sol, which will be printing the speed of light along with this statement. Speed of light is this, which is being written in this constant.py module. Okay. Now note that this is perfectly fine. Now let's consider another scenario. Let's say we have this constant.py file or module. We have another file called physics.py where there is an overlap. E light speed. Here it is defined as a numerical value. Here inside this physics.py file, it is defined as a string. Now, if I import both of them using this star notation, then what would happen? As I said in the last class, in this case, this will be overwritten by this statement because from constant import star, this is executed the latest. So after the first from physics import star, it will be importing e light speed and print sol in this form. But after this second statement, this will be overwritten by this. So the value of e will be changed from a string to a numerical value. So let's just try that. I have again have this physics.py file written inside the same directory. Here you can see the physics.py is here. The content of this file is here. If I say from physics import star, and then if I print say e, as you can see, the statement is this. Now this physics module imported is the statement which is this. By default, it is being printed once this import statement is executed. Now the value of e is this. Now if I again write from constant import star, and if I do this again, you can see earlier it was this, the value of E is this, now the value of E has become this. Both of them are correct. But as the latest one is being executed, that's why this E has been overwritten by this E. Earlier, the type of E was a string, but now, in this case, the type of E will be basically a numerical value of or a float. As you can see, it is a float. So the point is the latest one will be persisting, or the earlier one will be overwritten. Okay. So that's why it is better practice to not use this kind of a notation to import. Better notation is using this import constant as say const, and then write const dot p const dot say pi or const dot e, like this. Say from or say import say constant as const, and then const dot e. Okay, this will be printing this e, and import physics say as say py or phy, print phy dot e, which will be printing in the term of basically as a string. Now note that this will be, these two will be completely different. Okay, one will not be overwriting the other. In that case, we'll be able to persist both the values. This I initially discussed in the last class, but here this is the example. Okay. Now, let's say we have again this greet function. So module greet imported. This statement was executed, or there was a module output immediately after stating that this module greet after the first import of this greet statement. If there are import of this again the same module afterwards, what will be happening? Because so in short, there will be no output. So let's say, as I said, I have this greet module saved here. Let's open it. This is containing this, and I will be able to import it. In fact, I have already imported it. Okay, and now if I call this greet function, it will be printing, oops, sorry. So the name of the function is greet. So greet is the name of the module and greet is the name of the function as well. So there was a confusion earlier. I have written only this greet. Was at that point it was considering this module. So that's why it was giving me an error. So this will be giving me this statement, as well as if we want to call the other one named greet, in that case I need to provide one string, say Alice, and it will be printing hello Alice. Now let's say we want to add another definition here. So I'm adding another definition, say Indian greet. Okay, and the print statement will be say namaskar. Okay, I have saved it. Let's save it. You can see it is saved. Now if I again import it, so now at this point this function is not accessible, right? Let's try that. Let's try that. Greet dot, the name of the function is named or Indian greet. If I execute this, we'll be seeing that this is not actually available, because after importing I have written this. Although I have saved it, But as the import was actually happened before changing or writing this function is not available in the module. To do that, one simple approach that you are actually thinking of might be to import the module once again. But the thing is, that is not actually true, or that will not be actually working. It will be again giving us this error. So after importing a module, if you change the module, there are certain ways to reload that module. So in order to import, the basic way of doing it is to restart the interpreter all from the beginning. So if we just restart and then if we import the grid, it will be working. But that's not actually a good solution. Why? Because there can be some other running programs or some useful outputs that are already stored here. So if we restart the entire kernel, it will be hampering with other executions as well, because all the defined variables will be gone. So the better solution is to use a function called reload, which is defined inside another module called IMP, which is again a Python defined module, or the first type of module, which is installed together with Python. Okay, is giving me an error. Now I am importing that IMP. Okay, and then I'll be calling IMP dot reload, sorry, not restart, reload, and then I'll be providing the name of the module that I want to reload. The name of the module is greet. Now after executing this, if I execute this greet dot Indian greet, we will be getting the desired output. So in sum, if you make a change inside your module or inside your Python program that you are using as a module, you need to reload it. There are two ways to reload a module. One is a very lame way, that is of using or restarting the entire interpreter. A better solution is to use a module called IMP. There is a function inside this module called reload, which will be taking one parameter, which will be the name of the module that you want to reload, and it will be reloading the module. Okay. So to sum the entire module thing up, first of all, why should we be using a module? The reason is to break down a large program into small and organized files. This will be helping us to reuse certain codes. And when should we be using modules? In case we have a large number of functions and variables that we want to be used from multiple different programs. In that case, instead of copying the same code from one program to the other, what we can do is we can keep it inside a single code. We need to name it as something.py, and we can import that module or use that .py file as a module. But note that to use any Python program as a module, the name of the program should not be any Python reserved words. That is, while.py or for.py will be a valid Python program, a standalone Python program, but it will not be a valid module. So where should we be keeping our module files? The best practice is to keep them in the PWD or the present working directory from which we will be calling the function or calling the function defined inside that module. There is a solution of keeping them in the general installation path, but that is not actually a very popular approach to keep the user defined module files. That's it. Thanks a lot. Any question?